Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel Radhika TechHub. In this tutorial, we are going to discuss about how the workflow of CreateStore and ConfigureStore. So why we are using ConfigureStore? So what are the advantages to the ConfigureStore? We will discuss now in this tutorial. So ConfigureStore, it simplifies of our setuping of CreateStore. Means if you go into the create store, we will use the middlewares. We have to apply the middlewares, we have to create the root reducers, so actions reducers, all these we have to create. So but in configure store, by default there is no need of creating root reducer and importing it into store. So one class is reduced. And coming to the middlewares, so if we are going to use a create store, for the API calls we need the middleware of that Redux trunk. So first we'll see, we'll use our configure store, right? So we'll make how to apply, we will see. So the Redux trunk, so trunk will be in the Redux trunk, we will use that. So how we will use that? Here we will apply the apply middleware of thunk which we install from the Redux thunk. So this is the how we will use. But in configure store, there is no need to install our Redux thunk. The configure store which we get from the @reactjs toolkit, so it applies by default. It contains the predefined Redux thunk middlewares, like, so there is no need to install Redux thunk, and using of that by default it will be applied of middlewares where we require that. And also there is no need to create root reducer and reducers actions of separate classes. It contains the createSlice, it acts as a reducer. So now we will look how it will be applied, how we'll create the createSlice. So let's see. So I'm creating one file as counter slice. So first we'll remove this, and first we have to install our Redux toolkit. So we'll create our reducer first. It is just we, here we will use a createSlice. It acts as a reducer. Inbuilt actions also will be present in the slice itself. So how we will create that, we'll see now. So first we have to import our createSlice, which it is coming from the Redux toolkit. As usual, in our reducers we will create our initial state. So same, we have to create our initial state. So initial will make use of username. So now the same as we declare our reducer, so same we have to do like that. Equals to createSlice. Here we have to give the name of our reducer. So I am giving the name as So counter reducer, and we have to, in the reducer, before we are giving the state to, we are applying that initial state. So here also same initial state, and we have to make our reducers here. See how now. So in the action will make of action type, which method we are calling, we there we want to dispatch, we will name of that methods, we'll see once. So here in actions we'll get name as get list. After that in reducers, so based on the action type we will trigger here. So based on the action type we are triggering the method. So same as usual, here we trigger like it acts as an actions. So here I am making the increment count increment. So here we take the value and state dot, here we will take as one variable of count with initializing of 0 here. So I will make the count to increment the value equals to 1. So here I am incrementing by 1. After that we have to export our methods, which is nothing but a here count increment. As I am taking the action type is count increment, so I want to export this, export count increment. So where we get the count increment, counter slice reducer dot actions. So counter slice reducers dot actions. So here the slice will act as a reducer and actions. Now export our reducer. Inbuilt it will act like that. So default count slice reducer dot reducer. So this is the how we'll create our create slice reducer. Now we will create, already we set up our store here. So we'll go to store and we'll call our reducer here. So no need of this. So we'll make it as a comment. So const store equals to configure store. Here our reducer will make it as counter. We already named our reducer there. So first we'll import our count slice reducer. So count slice reducer. So we are imported our reducer in the store itself and we exported our store. Here also in the provider we exported our store. So it's done. Now we'll create one component as demo.jx. So here so first we will display the name which is stored in the initial state as username. And our count value. So for that, we have to use our dispatch. Use dispatch. And we have to call our use selector also, right? So we'll take the count from there. So I'm making as the count of variable name and use selector of state. So state dot, we named our reducer as counter. So here like that. So when we click on the button, it has to trigger our action which is increment, count increment, right? So for that, we have to dispatch that. So dispatch of increment method. So we have to call our method. So count increment. Here dispatch count increment. And we want to call the name also, right? Here count dot username. Now so go to app.js, import our demo. Here demo. So the demo configure store in Redux which is present in our demo.js. So name which we stored in the state and increment value button which is initialized the count value of 0. When we click, it triggers our method count increment. So here it's getting increment. So this is the how we'll use the configure store. So configure store is a simplified of the Redux. So in the create store, we used to install our Redux chunk of middlewares which we use to asynchronization process and satisfies the promises. So there is no need to use of middlewares. By default, present the chunk is present in the configure store. So the configure store completely simplifies our creating of store of setting our Redux store in the Redux. So it uses the slice and the slice acts as reducers and stores. So it reduces our root reducer class. In the previous, we used to create our root reducer and how many of reducers we are using in the application we make to list in the root reducer, and root reducer will be imported in our store. So as of this now we no need to create our root reducer. If we have any product reducers, so we make it as a name here itself, it acts as a object. So here itself product reducer, so we can list here itself. This is the how we'll create our reducer in store. We'll call and we will import our reducers here. So there is no need of middleware. This is the how we'll use the configure store. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click on the bell icon. It will give the notifications.